Good morning, everyone. Welcome to Education USA's Saturday webinars in India. Thank you for joining us. Today's session is on maximizing your time while you wait. Before I introduce today's speaker, I'd like to share some information about who we are and what we do. Education USA, as some of you may know, is a US Department of State supported body, and our mandate is to provide accurate, current, and comprehensive information to students who are looking to pursue higher studies in the US. We have 7 advising centers in India and over 400 worldwide. For more information, please visit www.educationusa.state.gov. In our efforts to reach more students, we conduct virtual information sessions twice a month on Saturday at 10 a.m. We invite you and your friends to join us for these sessions where you can learn more about the different aspects of higher study in the US. Over the coming months, we'll be doing several sessions on the transition from Indian academic life and culture to US academic culture, and various sessions that will help prepare you for academic and general life in the US. So this is obviously for students who are about to go to the US in 2019. So do feel free to join us for these sessions. We hope to see you there. At this point, I'm going to ask all participants to type into the chat box if you have any technical issues, and I will respond there and try to help you deal with them. And at the end of the session, we will have time for questions and answers. So do keep your questions till the end. You're welcome to type them during the session, but we will respond at the end. For today's session, our speaker is Tanushka Bali, Senior Education USA Advisor at USIEF Mumbai. Tanushka, good morning. Welcome to the Saturday webinar. Thank you so much for taking the time on a Saturday to present the session. We are ready to begin. The floor is all yours.
Great. Thank you so much, Deborah. Good morning, everyone. My name is Tanushka. I'll be presenting your session today. Deborah has already done a really nice introduction to our organization and what we do. And today's webinar is focused on for students who have already applied and are waiting for their admits, or perhaps have already been admitted to a few universities and are planning to start their higher studies in the US in fall of this year. So I hope that all of you who are participating, I hope you've already been admitted. If you haven't, I hope you get some admits. I know that this can be a very transitory period, and sometimes it takes time for universities to respond and let you know whether you've been admitted or not. So let's get started with the webinar. So this is not a very technical session. What I want to do is help you. I'm sorry, Deborah, there seems to be some clicking noise in the background. I'm not sure what that is. Yeah, so this session is to give you some guidelines and some points to keep in mind as you prepare for your final 5 or 6 months in India before you leave for the US. So many of you might still be in school, many of you might be in high school, some of you may be in college, and some of you may be working professionals. So a few things to keep in mind are that remember that until you are actually in the US, everything is up in the air. You still have to get all your admits. You still have to make a decision as to which university you're going to go to. You still have to go through the visa process. And then you have to cross immigration when you land in the US as well. So we always tell students to continue their normal life and not suspend their daily routines and their activities that they have scheduled and not focus only on their US admits. I know that this is a very uncertain time. You are waiting to hear back from universities, you are in your final semester, and everything seems to be up in the air. For undergraduate applications, we strongly recommend that you continue to focus on your board exams, even though you may already know which universities have given you admission and you may have decided your final university by now. it is still important to ensure that your grades, your final board exam results or your IB results are in line with what was predicted. So when you applied, your school counselor or school representative would have submitted predicted grades. And if you've not been able to maintain your grades and your final marks are not in line with your predicted grades, there is a chance that your admissions offer could be rescinded. So make sure that you are focusing on your board exams or your final exams and make sure that you do well in them. We also recommend to students that if you are focusing on entrance exams for Indian institutions or you are planning for your applications for other countries, do not slacken your performance and make sure that you keep all options open until it's 100% sure that you are going to the US, your visa has come through, and you have made your plans to travel to the US. It's also important at this time to discuss financial documents with your parents. So we recommend that parents organize all their financial documents and get conversations going with banks for loans if you're taking an education loan for your higher studies. We also recommend an online college writing course on Coursera or edX or any other suitable platform. And the reason for this is that college writing in the US is very different from any writing that you may have done in an Indian institute. And there are certain requirements and certain styles in which you are expected to write your assignments and any project work that you may do. So it's highly recommended that you prepare yourself once your board exams are over to take an online writing course. Now, you may also have heard of the AP exams. AP stands for Advanced Placement. Many undergraduate applicants choose to take the AP exams so that they can earn college level credit here in India before starting college. This is the time when AP registrations are usually announced. In fact, our organization has opened registrations for exams in Mumbai. And the AP exams are a great way to earn college credit at a reduced rate and save some time and money while you are in the US. Now, it's good to have a discussion with your universities, the ones that you've applied to or have been admitted to see which exams they will accept. Because we have seen students who have registered for AP exams without having this conversation, and later they have found out that their AP exam scores are not accepted by the university that they're going to. So it's important that you plan properly for AP exams if that is an option for you. For graduate applicants, our advice is similar. Continue to focus on your final semester. Make sure you have plan B in mind as well. And consider some of the placements that have been offered by your college. Now, I know some of your placements happen much earlier, maybe in November or December, but it's important to keep all your options open. If you are a working professional, we don't recommend that you quit your job early at this stage. Just wait till your admits come through, your I-20 comes through, and till your visa process is done with. Now, this is one very key piece of advice. I strongly recommend that you make a comparison chart for your admits or for the universities that you have applied to. I know all your decisions may not be in, but it's important to compare the strengths and weaknesses of each of the institutions that you have applied to, because once all the universities respond to you, you may have more than one admit, and at that time you might find yourself very, very confused about which university to finalize. So do make a comparison chart, compare the syllabi, the course offerings, the requirements, the opportunities for practical learning, the city that you'll be based in. Some universities may offer you funding or financial aid or scholarships, right? And it's very important because you'll have to sit down and calculate what that will turn out to be, what your total costs will be, what your expected contribution will be. And sometimes calculating the cost of attendance at a university can be a little confusing because some universities list their costs by the number of units, and they list a cost for each unit of study. And so you'll need to figure out how many total units or credits you need to graduate and then multiply that and then figure out if they've given you a scholarship, what the difference is, and then convert that to the Indian rupee equivalent, that dollar amount converted to the Indian rupee equivalent, and then prepare your finances accordingly, right? We also recommend that if you have not been given a scholarship or a fellowship, and this is quite common at the master's level, not to get funding at the time of admission, that you keep researching other opportunities for scholarships and apply for them as well. In fact, January, February, and March is the period, these 3 months is when a lot of Indian organizations open up their loan scholarship applications. You've got the J.N. Tata Endowment, the K.C. Mahindra, Narottam Siksharya, etc. These are Indian-based organizations that offer loan scholarships to students who want to study abroad. So this is the time period to keep your eyes and ears open for such announcements. I also recommend that you speak to alumni and find out first-hand information about the universities that you are considering. There are a lot of online portals and Facebook groups and websites where students discuss their admits and their university options with each other. And this can be a great resource. However, there's no way to verify the authenticity of the information that is presented on these portals and websites. So it's always a good idea to speak to someone who has had first-hand experience at a particular university and find out and get all your questions answered about that university if that's one of your options. All right. Now, coming to your personal time, this is in continuation with the previous point, that is speaking to alumni. We also recommend that you contact current Indian students at universities and get feedback about, what the city is like, what the town is like, what's the weather like over there, accommodation, transportation, other facilities, shopping, etc. Find out information about that. Many US universities have international student associations, which are comprised of international students, as well as Indian student associations. So you can certainly get in touch with them. They are usually a very good resource. They can provide a lot of practical information about your first couple of weeks in the US and in that university, and they even go as far as to pick up students from the airport. They may help you with accommodation for the first few days. So they're very, very helpful. Please reach out to them and stay in touch with them. You can also sign up to be part of their email listserv so that you get regular updates from them. Nowadays, they form WhatsApp groups, they form Facebook groups, and other groups through social media. So it's very, very easy to stay in touch with these students. I also recommend that you properly archive your own documents. Make sure that you've got copies of your passport, your mark sheets, your degree certificates, your school leaving certificates, and make sure you also got e-copies of all of these documents. It's always helpful to have additional copies. The next thing that you may be asked to do is get your vaccination records or get your vaccinations done. A lot of US universities require international students to get certain vaccinations done. And a lot of these vaccinations are, we've had them since we have been children. So they're done at birth for Indian students. And so you may not have a record of your vaccination because that may be, anywhere from 18 to 20 odd years before. So what you will need to do is take the vaccination form that the university has given you, go to your local physician and get your physician to sign the document and issue a letter saying that you have received the following vaccinations. So this is very, very important, and this sometimes makes students very anxious. There's nothing to be anxious about. There's nothing to get stressed out about. This is a normal requirement from universities in the US. So just ask them for a list of vaccinations that are required of you and just go get a letter signed by your local doctor stating that you have been vaccinated against these conditions or diseases. We also recommend that you start picking up basic life skills, learn some cooking, learn to make some basic dal, roti, sabzi, rice, etc., and invest in a small pressure cooker. This is very, very helpful for Indian students in the US because Eating out can be very, very expensive, and within a couple of months, you will start to feel very homesick and you will really feel like eating some of your home food and your comfort food, which is Indian food. It's also important because for graduate students, because many of you don't live in the dorms and many of you may choose to live on your own and by renting an apartment or a house and sharing it with other roommates. And you will need to cook because otherwise you will end up spending way too much money on eating food outside. For undergraduate students, you may not have the option of cooking for yourself because you may be required to live on campus and purchase a meal plan, but you will have access to a kitchen or a kitchenette somewhere in your dorms or in the local area, in the local space of your dorm. So if you want, you can cook some of your own food. I also encourage you to pick up other life skills, learn to do your own laundry, learn to handle your own finances and your banking, because you will be responsible for all these things in the US. And some of us may not have had the opportunity to learn these skills because we live in a society where we have a lot of household help, domestic help that helps us with this. And of course, our parents are very heavily involved in our lives. So learn this. And one key skill, which is really important, is time management. In the US, you are expected to be early. You're expected to be on time, if not early. And the Indian standard time or the Indian culture of coming 5, 10, 15, 20 minutes late is not acceptable. So people will respect your time and you are also expected to respect other people's time. So make sure that you have picked up the skill and you are planning well in advance so that you can be at your appointments or your meetings well on time. A couple of other things that may need updating: check your passport early in the year. It needs to be current with at least 6 months of validity on your passport. If your passport is expiring within 3 or 4 months, you will need to get a new passport. If your passport is expiring in 8, 9, in 6 months or more, do not worry. As long as you have 6 months validity, you should be fine to travel. There is an option to renew your passport in the US at the Indian embassy or the Indian consulate that's closest to you. But I would recommend at least a year's validity. If not, then you can decide whether you want to renew it here or you want to renew it in the US. But if you will be allowed to travel as long as you have 6 months of validity. One practical tip is to work on your internet research skills. This is something that will be very handy when you are in the US. I know that at the undergraduate level, there is a lot of support provided to students to learn how to use the internet to conduct research. At the graduate level, you might not have those many resources or options. They are available, but learn to use the internet in an effective way. As a student, you will be expected to go out and find information on your own, to do your own homework and your own research. And at that time, it's important to understand what kind of websites to use, where to get authentic information. The next practical piece of advice for you is to get your local driver's license and or your international driver's license, so that if you are in a situation in the US where you need to drive, you have a license to drive. There are a few states that allow students to drive on their license from their home country, and it's always helpful to have a driver's license, at least for the first couple of months. You are an During your studies in the US, you are an ambassador of your country. Remember that, though there are a lot of Indians in the US, there will always be some people that you'll interact with who may not know enough about your country, or who may not who may have heard certain myths about India. So make sure you learn some US and some Indian history and culture so that you're able to engage in discussion and dialogue with students who are not Indian or of Indian origin, because you'll be meeting students from all over the world, not just Americans, who may or may not know much about India. So the next couple of slides are going to deal with your travel and how to use your current time fruitfully. Make sure you prepare your documents to apply for the visa interview. You do need an I-20 and you do need to fill out the DS 160 form. And these are forms. The DS-160 is your application form for your visa. The I-20 is your official documentation from the university that you are required for your visa interview, as well as when you land in the US. If you're applying for loans, make sure all your paperwork is in order and do not wait for the last moment. Please note that from about April onwards until August, until September, it is peak application time, visa application time, and so there can be a long wait period to get a visa interview, and the more you delay with your documents, the later you will have to take your visa interview. And that is something that might not be under your control. You may not be able to get an appointment in time for you to reach the US. So that you meet your your date for student orientation. So please make sure that you've got all your paperwork and documentation in order before you plan to apply for your visa. Now, some of you may hear back from your universities very late. You may hear back from a university, and this happens more at the graduate level. You may hear back only in May or June, and it may take the university some time to process your I-20 and get your paperwork to you. And we've also seen instances of I-20s getting lost by courier services, etc. So always plan to have enough time. Make sure you are working directly with the International Student Office and the designated school official at your university to get your I-20 to you on time. When you go for your visa interview, there are a couple of things to keep in mind. US visa officials want to know that you are a genuine student. Make sure you apply for your visa interview as soon as possible, but within the 120-day period that you are allowed to apply. And make sure you have your financial plan and your documents ready. Now, most visa officers do not ask to see documents, but it's always helpful if you have your documents in place and ready, just in case you are asked about them. One more thing to keep in mind is that sometimes visas can require additional administrative processing. This means that they may need a little bit more time to make a decision on whether you get a visa or not. And they may ask you for additional documentation, or they may ask you to provide additional information. Make sure that you are checking your email regularly and that you are complying with all requests for documentations. We have had cases where students have sent their documents and have not followed up and have found that the documents never reached the agency that they were required to send them to, and so their visa application just did not progress and they had to miss the first semester and defer their admission to the next semester. You don't want to be in that position. Make sure that after you send in your documents, you follow up with customer service, etc., to make sure that your email has gone through and your documents have gone through. Check your email regularly. Make sure that no communication from the visa authorities has gone into your spam or your junk folder, etc. Make sure you stay on top of this in case you have to go through this administrative processing. This is also a time when you will get a lot of email communication from your universities. So make sure you are reading those emails and you're on top of them as well. Very often I see students who miss deadlines or who miss some information just because they haven't checked their email. And their excuse is, oh, I had board exams or I had final semester exams. You take maybe 15 minutes every weekend, carve out time, go through your emails, make sure you've noted important information, even if you are going through your final exams. Lastly, get in touch with your international student office, arrange your housing, decide what kind of housing you're going to go for. If you're an undergraduate student, it is very likely that you will live on campus. It may be a requirement. And so you may not have much choice over there, but if you're a graduate student or if you are allowed to live off campus, then make sure that you do your research and find out what options are available. This is a good time to also plan the clothing that you may need to purchase. Winters in some parts of the US can be very, very harsh. So make sure that you have a few warm clothes with you so that you can manage for the first few weeks or for the first month, because that's when it's starting to get cold in the US. Make sure you have any electronic converters for your electronic devices so that it matches the voltage in the US. A lot of students think that they should book tickets very early so that they can save on costs. I completely understand where you're coming from, but my recommendation is to book your tickets after your visa has been issued. And this sometimes can mean that your your ticket price is a little bit higher. If you don't want to wait till the visa is issued and you want to book your ticket early so that you can save money, make sure you book an open ticket or a flexible ticket where you have the flexibility to change the dates or to cancel the ticket without incurring a heavy financial penalty. So that brings me to the end of the presentation. I hope this presentation gave you some practical advice on how to use your time over the next 6 to 7 months before you go to the US. I know that there are a lot of things that are going on. You're probably going through your final exams. You're trying to process your paperwork. You're trying to decide which university to go to. Just take it step by step and chalk out a plan for yourself. Give yourself a timeline and make sure that you are doing all the things you need to ensure that your transition to the US university is a smooth one. So before I close out my presentation, I just want to let you all know that we do very regular information sessions, 2 Saturdays a month. That information on the slide is incorrect. It's not every Saturday, it's 2 Saturdays a month. We also have our official website, educationusa.state.gov. So please use that as a resource for more information. This is our contact information at the Mumbai Center. If you are not in Maharashtra or in Western India, you can find an advising center near you through our website. Excuse me. Do check out our Facebook page where we post a lot of information, information about scholarships, news articles that you need to know, and other announcements about events that are happening at our centers. So that's facebook.com/educationusa India. Lastly, I also want to let you know that we do have a YouTube channel called Education USA India. Please use that as a resource for more information. We have over 100 videos recorded on different topics related to higher studies in the US. And it's a great way to get some information, and you're always welcome to reach out to an advising center and speak with an advisor to get your questions answered. So that's all I have for today. If you have any questions, I'll be happy to answer them now. Okay, so the first question is from Naval. Naval says, could you please share the importance of the AP exams and the names of Indian scholarships available for undergraduate students? So Naval, the AP exams are offered only to prospective undergraduate students, and the AP stands for Advanced Placement. So these are college level exams which allow you to test out of some courses. They're offered in different subjects. So for example, you have exams for physics, for calculus, economics, chemistry, biology, environmental science, etc. There's an entire list of exams that are offered. And if you clear the exam with a high enough score, then what that means is you don't have to take that course when you go to the US. So a lot of students take the AP exams so that they don't have to take each and every course that is required for them to graduate. So they save on time and they save on money, because if they've already cleared that college level exam. The second question is about Indian scholarships available for undergraduate students. Naval, unfortunately, the scholarships that I mentioned are only for graduate students. I don't know of any Indian scholarships that are available for undergraduate students. However, there are a few websites where you can go and search for scholarships. One is fundingustudy.org, and another website is webpass.org, and the third one is iefa.org. So you can search these websites. They aggregate information about different types of scholarships, and you can see if there is anything that you'd be eligible for. The next question is from Aman. Aman asks about vaccinations. Uh, so Aman wants to know about if you don't have your vaccination records. That's okay, Aman. It's okay if you don't have your vaccination records. What you will need to do is take the vaccination form that the university gives you and get it signed by your local physician, who can indicate on that form and in a letter that you have already been vaccinated at age and whatever age you had got those vaccinations, because there are certain vaccinations that you get within the first few months of your birth. Then you get some booster shots at 6 months, 1 year, 2 year, etc. So you can just get a doctor to sign off on that. That's nothing to worry about. I hope that answers your question. All right. Sanjana's question is, how do we learn about college culture in the US? Sanjana, that's a really good question. We have a separate presentation for US classroom culture. I would recommend that you stay connected with us and join us for a future webinar on this, or you can also check out our YouTube channel. We have a recorded version of this. It's also good if you talk to other students. They can also, other current students or alumni, they can also tell you more about classroom culture and college culture, academic life in the US. Okay, so the next question is from Adi Kothari about applying for permanent residency in the US after your undergraduate studies to qualify for in-state tuition for your graduate course. Adi, I'm not sure that I'm the right person to answer your question. We don't have expertise on how to apply for permanent residency. That is a different process, and that's my understanding. As far as I know, it's not a possibility for students who are not already permanent residents or US citizens to apply and qualify for in-state tuition. Having said that, there are some universities that offer in-state tuition to international students as well. And you can do your research, and if you want to apply for graduate studies and bring down your total cost, you can think of applying to those universities. But that is not contingent on you being a permanent resident. That's just an offering by certain universities to make the cost of studies affordable even for international students. Aman, I think your question is a follow-up question to your vaccination and immunization records. I don't think you need to show the doctors in India know what are the standard vaccinations. So if you have a local physician or a family doctor, please get him or her to sign the document. And if they want you to show some sort of immunization record or something, that's a conversation you can have with them if you don't have those records. But this is usually nothing to worry about. You usually can just take it to your family doctor or local doctor, and he or she will happily sign this for you. Okay. So the question is, what is the meaning of being admitted as a matriculated undergraduate? It just means that you have completed your studies. That's what it means. This question is by Amish. Okay, Aman wants to know about email notifications. Hi, Aman, I don't know which center you've registered with. Could I just request you to call whichever center where you've registered and let them know that you haven't been receiving notifications? Another great way to stay in touch with our upcoming sessions is to follow our website, usif.org.in, or our Facebook page where we update our events as well. So if you haven't gotten an email notification from us about upcoming sessions, you can just check our website. We have the monthly calendar up there for each of our centers. Okay, so the next question is from Taha. Is studying maths in class 11 and 12 compulsory to take admission in a Bachelor of Science? You studied maths till 10. I'm studying bio, physics, chemistry 11 and 12. Taha, it's not compulsory. It can be very helpful if you've got mathematics in class 11 and 12, but it's not compulsory. Some very selective schools such as MIT or Caltech, etc., may require you to do mathematics in class 11 and 12 if you are applying for, if you are applying for engineering or a related course. But a lot of universities can be flexible, and if they feel that you do not have the math requirements, they may ask you to complete those prerequisites in your first year in college. So no, it's not an absolute hard requirement. But if you plan to study engineering or mathematics, then it can be very helpful. So Debasmita wants to get the link of the previous webinar regarding biomedical engineering. I'm not sure how I can help you this. Deborah, maybe you can provide some information.
Yeah. So, Devasmita, if you have the registration link, you should be able to register at that link, and the link will take you to a recording of the webinar. So if you use just the regular registration, so if you must have registered before the webinar, but if you register again now that the webinar is over, you will get access to the recording. So try that first, and if it doesn't work, let me know. You can email me. My email will be in the email that you would have received upon registration for this webinar.
Okay. Okay, so there are a couple more questions. There's a question from Aman about employment affecting visa approvals. Aman, I'm not sure whether you mean employment in India. The important thing to keep in mind about the student visa is that you are evaluated on the merits of your application and of your individual application. And what the US visa officials are looking for is primarily that you are a genuine student and you are prepared for your studies in the US. They are looking to ensure that you have a proper financial plan in place and you have enough funds for the first year of your studies. And lastly, they are looking to ensure that you're not going to misuse your visa. So what you have been doing it's not something that will directly affect your visa. If you have been working, that's fine. There are working professionals who apply for visas. There are students who have not been working, have taken some time off to focus on their applications, who apply for visas. So it's okay if you've resigned. It's okay if your company shut down and if you are unemployed. And that's not a problem. If you are asked about your employment history or if you are asked about why you resigned, you should be able to explain truthfully what the situation is and what happened. So don't worry about not being employed. Ideally, you have to be prepared for your field of study. So as long as you've not been unemployed for a really long period of time where you've been wasting your time doing nothing, I don't think it really matters. These conditions are beyond your control. If your company shuts down or it doesn't have enough funding, or sometimes students have personal reasons why they quit their jobs because they need to help with a family problem or they need to take some time off to deal with a medical problem. That's fine. It's okay. Just make sure that whatever questions you are asked, you answer them honestly. So Sanjana wants to know when you should apply for your international driver's license and how long the license is applicable. Sanjana, I'm not sure. You'll have to check in your state. This is a suggestion. You don't have to have an international driver's license, but it always helps if you have an international driver's license. Just in case you need to drive and you don't have a local license in the US, it can help if you have an international license. But please don't feel that this is a compulsory thing. There are many students who go to the US without a driver's license, and it's completely fine if you don't have a license.
So I think that brings us to the end of our questions and to the end of this session as well. So thank you so much, Tanushka, for presenting the session, for so much practical advice. It was a very rich session. And thank you everyone for joining us. Please like and follow our Facebook India Education USA India page for information about upcoming webinars. And thank you once again. We hope you have a good day.
Thank you, Deborah. Thank you to all the students. Please do reach out to us if you have more questions. Have a nice day. Bye.